Welcome to youTurn Radio. Here at youTurn Radio, we believe in big-hearted communities and small government. Join your hosts, NADIA RENNER, Tom Murphy, and Eric Steinman, as we work to put local governments on a diet and champion the charities that support your community. So come on, join us and let's turn it around.
Welcome to youTurn. Happy Thursday. Beautiful day out here today in the Inland Empire. I was driving up to the studio and the mountains look so amazing. That's one thing that I really love about the Inland Empire, how beautiful the mountains look, the snow. We are live and direct from KCAA studio. Eric is joining us via telephone, and Tom is here live and direct.
I am here, and I agree. And you know, at least for this next year, the drought's over.
True. We've got a lot of rain, but I actually don't mind it that much. How are you, Eric?
Yeah.
You good?
What's that?
I said, how are you? We were just talking about how beautiful it is out here in the Inland Empire and how we see the mountains full of snow and stuff. Where are you calling us from today?
Oh, I'm actually in Las Vegas, but I just got out of those mountains and all that snow and plowing and shoveling.
Sounds like you might not be quite as excited about...
yeah, because I'm over here super excited.
It's a little better from afar, maybe.
All right, well, we have a great show today. We are actually going to be talking about how to save San Bernardino County, and we want to know what you think. You can always call us at 909-792-5222. That's 909-792-5222. Tom, how can we save San Bernardino?
Well, I guess the first point is we kind of got to ask ourselves, does it need to be saved, right?
Right.
Okay, that's a fair question. And then if the answer is yes, it needs to be saved, then it's like, okay, how are we going to go about it? And then there's a little bit of a disclaimer, and that is, you know, you and I sitting in a room at KCAA studios, we aren't going to save San Bernardino County.
We're not like Superwoman and Superman and Batman. I mean,
exactly. It is the registered and interested and aggressive voters that are paying attention to issues that are important. Those are the folks that are actually going to save San Bernardino County. So anyway, that's got a little bit of a disclaimer in terms of what comes next on the show.
Perfect. And if this is the first time you listen to youTurn Radio, we believe in big-hearted communities. So if you call in, we go ahead and spin the wheel for charity. And whatever it lands on, that's what we're going to donate to your favorite charity working here in the Inland Empire.
Yeah, we've had a lot of fun with this. $700 to a local boxing gym, nonprofit boxing gym. I think another $700 to an organization out in the desert, and it was specifically targeted to care for pets of homeless people. And then, maybe the more standard donation to Run for Life, I think, in Barstow, which is an American Cancer Society umbrella thing. So a lot of fun with that. So if you're listening and you would like to see money donated to your favorite charity, give us a call, and we'll spin the wheel.
Absolutely. Also, if you have any questions about any of the stuff that we've covered or you want to be part of, you can, and you don't call in, but you have something that you want to share, email us at info@youturnradio.com. That's info@youturnradio.com. And you can also always find way more episodes on youturnradio.com, where we covered a lot of things here in the Inland Empire that you'll actually learn something from, because I always do.
Yep, absolutely.
All right, so let's get started. Does San Bernardino need to be saved? What do we mean when we say that? What are we going to save people from?
Well, like you said, the first question is, does it need to be saved?
Right.
And my answer is yes. And I came up with 4 B's here to kind of describe it.
4 B's. What are the 4 B's?
4 B's. We have.
What's the first one?
We've got we've got bloat, we have bankrupt, we have bling, and we have blight. So those are kind of the 4 B's, and then we'll kind of talk through
the only one that I really like out of all those B's you just said is the bling part. And the bling part, I mean like diamonds bling bling anyways.
Well, which I understand, but,
okay.
but when we get to that part, you'll understand that, yeah, okay, maybe this is a problem. Because let's first talk about bloat.
Okay.
You know, something, I saw a cartoon once of this really large, overweight, this was a cartoon gentleman who was kind of dressed like a baby and crying for more food. And it was labeled government on it. And then there's this skinny little older person, almost emaciated, and it was labeled private sector, and it was, feeding the baby, if you will.
Oh, wow.
So that's kind of the point in terms of bloat. San Bernardino County's budget, it's gone up $2.3 billion since 2010. That's billion.
I'm sorry, that's with another B, 2.3 billion.
Yeah, and this is just the increase. All right, so 2.3 billion. For those of you that are like me, might have a hard time visualizing what that looks like. And again, this is just the increase. If you were to stack $1 bills on top of each other, $2.3 billion would be 82 Mount Baldies.
Wow.
Or Mount San Antonio, if you prefer that.
Figuring that height of those things.
What was that, Eric?
They're doing some real work figuring out that height.
Hey, you learn something new at youTurn every time. 82.
You have to sit there with $100, measure how high that is, multiply it.
No, man. This is all internet resourced. So if somebody really wants I can point them to the reference. So that's just kind of a visual picture. And again, this is just the increase in 10 years. It's gone up that way. Another thing that I think is always important to look at, and certainly
inflation over that same period of time is what, Tom?
Good question. I'd have to go back. Let's assume that it's about 2 to 2.5% per year. So that'd be like 20 to 30% maybe. But
so it's increasing far greater than inflation and taking up a far greater share of the resources in the county is the point, I think, right?
Right. Yes. And one of the reasons that it's growing is because the number of employees has increased in the same amount of time. The head count has gone up almost 20%, 19.8%, and that's one employee of the county for every 94 citizens. So that's a substantial change in the past 10 years. I think 10 years ago it was like one employee for every 110.
Do we need that many employees for every 94 people in the Inland Empire?
I mean, obviously, as a small government proponent, the answer would be no.
Right.
I mean, even and maybe looking at other California counties isn't the greatest model, but there are other California counties that it's like 1 in 170. The San Bernardino County would be very near the bottom, along with LA County, and that in terms of numbers of employees in the large counties.
But I mean, we can't even really compare like these counties, can we? Like Los Angeles, Inland Empire, like it's different.
It's different, but it's county government, and what they're to do is kind of written out by state law and county ordinance. So it's not going to be their functions, the things that they need to deliver are going to be pretty much the same.
All right.
So there's an order of magnitude. LA County's got 10 million people or something like that in it. San Bernardino has 2.5 million. But the point here is that number of employees per resident. Why does San Bernardino need 1 in 94?
Right.
And Orange County has 1 in, I think it's like 175. So, and then the greater point is bloat. The bureaucracy continues to expand over time. And so another portion of bloat, as I smoothly opened my computer after it went to sleep, you look like you have a question.
I don't. No. Go for the third one.
Okay.
Under bloat.
Actually, this one is under the next B. This is under bankrupt.
Okay.
And no, the county is not bankrupt yet, but there is a substantial threat, and this is true to every government entity in California, from local municipal to water districts to counties, and this is the threat posed by the pension tsunami that's slowly headed this way and actually beginning to increase. And these things tend to start to become a little technical, but I think the important thing is that if you were to take your money and invest it in a safe entity or stock or piece of paper, if you're investing at like 3 to 4%, that would be considered pretty safe, right?
Okay, right.
If your portfolio
that wouldn't be a year or two ago. A year or two ago, safe investments were 1% or under.
Okay, all right. So even a 3 to 4% would be.
You got risk involved at 3 to 4% even now.
Right. Okay, and then if you go up to 7 to 8%, what happens to your risk?
It's higher.
Yeah, of course. It's like a basic rule. Higher return, you're going to have higher risk.
Right.
Well, the San Bernardino's retirement fund, SB Sarah, I'll call it for short. If you kind of look at their situation and apply what Eric pointed out as maybe a moderate to low risk, maybe moderate risk scenario, so 3 to 4% return.
Mm-hmm.
They're actually like 46% funded. So for every dollar that they are going to have to pay out,
$18 to $20 billion underfunded, right? Which means shut the county down for 4 years or something, and use every dollar for paying what's owed in the pension fund. Which won't happen. But just to give you a visual on it, that's how bad they're under. But they're lying to people and telling them that they're not under that much, because they're projecting that in the future they're going to make earnings 3 to 4 times what they have in the past, which is just plain lying to people. So.
Yeah, and it's to a certain extent it's even worse. Like Eric said, to pay that debt, you'd have to entirely shut the county down, and the $5.2 billion a year would go directly to plussing up the pension fund.
And you would shut it down, Eric, you said 3 to 4 years?
Yeah.
That's a long time.
Well, what's even worse, remember...
That's how much of a hole they've done themselves into. That would be like if you got your bills every month and you wanted to catch up with them, you just keep pushing them off and string them along and borrowing more money and putting more on your credit card. But if you wanted to catch up on it, you would have to take all your earnings for a 3 to 4 year period and pay them just to pay your bills down. That's how far in the hole they are.
And another way to look at it, which may even make it more frightening, is, the county, like all government entities, has what you might call discretionary income and non-discretionary. So like bills they got to pay as compared to bills that they can, money that they can kind of use for operations, that type of things. Money that isn't by law required to be used for something else. So a lot of funding that comes into the county by law is required to be used for health and human services, something like that. So if you take the discretionary fund and say, okay, how long because this is discretionary, we can choose what we want to do with it. If you took just that money,
Right.
it'd take 17 to 19 years
What?
to pay that off. Yeah, the analogy would be like, okay, I'm in debt. My household is
Yeah.
in debt, but I sure don't want to get kicked out of my house. So I always got to pay my mortgage, right?
Right.
So that's like off the table. But I can adjust my food budget and I can like never turn the lights on. All of that discretionary, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
It's a
yeah.
discretionary decision. All of that discretionary funding, it would be gone for 17 to 19 years to cover what the county is going to owe in pensions over the future.
Wow.
And really the only difference is the number that they use to predict what's happening in the future. And like Eric said, they're using 7 to 8%, but they're actually earning right around 4%.
Well, one, that's just a prediction, and two, the people that are employed right now making these decisions are not going to be there in a few years. So there's going to have to be like a whole new game plan, I feel like, for all of this mess that
Yes.
we owe at this point.
Yes, and that I probably should work quickly through these last two because we spent a lot of time on the bankrupt, but we got bling.
Okay,
right?
I like the sound of the bling, but
okay,
and it might not be the type of bling that I'm talking about.
Under the bling category, we have essentially what we've called before a ruling class. And it's a ruling class because of the compensation. If you take an average of elected officials' pay and benefits, it's $316,892 a year. That's the average of the I think it was 9 or 10 elected salaries. Now underneath that you have a whole raft of employees of the county that are highly compensated. But if you just kind of look at the elected officials, that 318 is 5.5 times more than the median household income in the county. So that's kind of why I call it bling.
Right.
Is because that's pretty flashy in terms of comparison.
That's definitely a bling for sure.
Yeah, and then the other part of the bling is if you kind of look at pay and benefits for a government employee as compared on average to pay and benefits for the private sector, it's 2 to 3 times higher when you account for everything, which is pay, leave, retirement, that type of thing. So you got this culture of bling in terms of compensation that, if you go over to San Bernardino City and drive around for a while, nobody out there is making.
My question is, how does this happen and how does it keep developing? Why isn't there a stop? Do people not know this information or, how does it keep just going?
Yeah,
what I'm saying?
It's a great question, and I don't know how I'd respond other than it's years of if you will, you gotta ask yourself who's driving the gravy train, and who's driving the gravy train really, in my opinion, is not the electorate. It's the bureaucracy. It's the system. It like all of us, it acts in a self-interested way, not necessarily selfish, although this can appear. But when you do something, we do what makes us happy, right?
Right, of course.
And for lack of a better term, that's our self-interest, right? We're going to do things that
make us happy.
That make us happy. Now, that might be a altruistic action, or it might be, hey, I'm in a public employee union, and I'm going to support a politician that I know is going to deal gently with us, if you will, at the bargaining table the next time our contract comes out. And I think that really is what drives it. You got this kind of feedback system where, the elected official knows, next time this is 20,000, there's 20,000 people employed by the county. That's 20,000 votes. I can't make these people angry.
Right, of course. Which that's where this amount keeps developing, because even if you had that one superhero that would try to say, let me stop, or let me try to make a change, you're working against the whole squad, or like the rest of the people. And then
the last B was blight, and that kind of speaks to the performance, I guess, in one sense. Poverty in the county was on the rise drastically up until 2015. It was up to 19% poverty rate. It's dropped down a little bit as the economy is increased. I guess the point there is, the poverty rate in the county, particularly if you compare it to other counties, it's really high. I looked at a study, I think it was like 10 counties across the nation that were pretty comparable. And poverty in San Bernardino County is number 2, only exceeded by Miami-Dade County.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Number 2 on top 10, number 2. Right?
Yeah, it wasn't the top 10. What they did was they picked 10 counties across the nation that kind of looked alike in terms of size and that type of thing, and that's where San Bernardino ended up, if you will. So, we got. So does a county need saving? Well,
absolutely.
You got the issues of blight, of bling, of bloat, and the other B that I can't remember. Bankrupt. That was it. Thank you.
All right. Well, so obviously from seeing your 4 Bs, we know that there's a problem here.
Right. Yeah, we think so.
And we think it needs saving.
Right.
We need somebody to step up. And it's not somebody. We need people to step up to play.
Exactly.
That's exactly what we need to do. So we're going to go to a commercial break. We're going to then come back and talk about who are the people that need to step up to make a difference and make a change, because San Bernardino needs help.
Yeah, and we'll talk about maybe a method to do that.
All right, so let's do that. We'll go into a commercial break, and we'll be back with more youTurn. Welcome back to youTurn Radio. Before the commercial break, we were going over how we're in the danger zone. And when I say the danger zone, San Bernardino is in the danger zone. Tom went over his 4 Bs, and they're not in this order, but it's blight, bankruptcy, bling, and bloat.
There you go.
Right?
Yep.
There's your 4 Bs. I had to write it down. I don't remember stuff.
You did
There's
well,
your 4 Bs.
well.
And we're in the danger zone because we just went over and covered, how much money we really owe. How much money, we went over pensions and how much money there is there that we would technically owe.
Right? Not technically.
And that we owe.
And what's interesting is, these projections, I believe, are 30-year projections. So there are people not yet born that have debt that they're going to have to pay off.
That's so crazy. I don't have kids. I don't have kids, so I could only imagine, like, by the time I have kids, and those kids are, like, I don't know, grown adults.
Yeah.
We'll still be in debt.
They will
That's
be.
insane.
They will be paying, for retirement for folks that are working right now.
So we come to conclusion that we need help. We need to save it, right? Mm-hmm. So we came up with 5 different principles that if we apply them, we can have a different change.
Yeah, and actually, I kind of look at the 5 principles as commitment by elected leadership. And my background's military, and one of the things that I've found is that leadership really flavors an organization. You can say, well, something like this where, elected official comes in for 4 years and then moves on. Really, what can they do? It's not true. It really, whoever's sitting in the head seat, if you will, flavors that organization. So if we believe if the leader has this set of principles, then they're gonna commit to behaviors and efforts and initiatives that will result in good results. Does that make sense? These aren't like 5, if you do these, everything's fixed.
Right.
It's 5 guiding principles that will drive elected leadership behavior that we think will be helpful.
Right. And it's good to introduce, not just talk about a problem, but also introduce what could be solutions.
Yeah.
At some point, right?
And we'll get maybe later in the show, hopefully later in the show, we'll kind of talk a little bit about how we go from principle to action or execution on some of these things.
All right, let's get into it. Principle number 1.
Okay, we'll go kind of quick. Principle, what was that, Eric?
I would add to that part of the approach on that is it's not an instant fix, but it's focused on something that will start to improve the situation, but also something that uncouples the self-interest of some of the people making the campaigns and shows them that, if we can't get enough people involved to support people, they don't have to go the route of selling out to, interests that are not in the best interest of the county to get themselves elected to stay in office. And they're not in office to begin with to make money. They're in to serve more. And if we can, get people representing us with some of different set of motivations, we think that is what can start to turn things around.
Which is a great segue to principle number 1, which is essentially a conflict of interest principle. And the idea is that we would want an elected leader to commit to this principle, which is whenever there's a conflict of interest, they will recuse themselves from that situation. They won't vote. They won't, if you will, work within the organization to, either yes or no on the issue. Let me maybe think of an example. We can kind of harken back to that issue with the public employee unions. If I was elected and part of the funding that went into my election came from public unions,
Right.
then I would hope that I would see that, man, there's a conflict of interest there if I'm now going to negotiate their salaries. So I would say, hey, I got, $10,000 or whatever it is from this union, so I'm going to recuse myself from these negotiations.
That makes sense.
That's pretty simple, right?
Right.
Or let's use another real world example on it, Tom, and that's there's this guy or group that got $100 million or thereabouts from the county for buying essentially a wash and planning some development on it and saying that the county basically allowed the freeway to go across this wash, directing more water onto his property. But and after doing that, he got a $100 million settlement from the county. We've addressed this on our show. Gave a bunch of contributions to the supervisors at the county that voted to give him the $100 million, and certain people at the county didn't think that was right, and they initiated some litigation against him over a course of years on that, or his organization. And now he wants to get paid $240 million, or him collectively with some others want to get paid $240 million for having gone through that litigation, and he's making contributions to people to run for supervisor and the district attorney in order to do that. So you really can't stop them making contributions. Anyone's entitled to do that, but you should have it. San Bernardino County is not going to benefit from, people being able to pay $1 million or $2 million to get a supervisor elected who can then turn around and hand somebody $240 million, whether they do it or not.
Right.
They should say, look, I can't help you now because I've taken your money to get elected. That's the same way it's treated in the private sector.
Right. Yeah.
But even for the people that are giving this money, shouldn't they just do it because they really believe in the person. I mean, I think like too, this is a two-party situation. Like just like that, let's just say the supervisor, for example, if they have a different agenda, like, yeah, let me take this money and I have a different agenda to help them out. I think the people that are donating the money too should almost do it because they really have faith in this person that's going to make a difference, not just for the company or the private sector, but like just for like people in general in the community.
Yeah, we're not. I'm not at all advocating for, hey, people out in the community can't donate to campaigns
Right.
to people they believe in. Totally support that.
I'm just saying without an agenda is what I'm saying.
Oh, I gotcha. Yeah, without that
Yeah, like here's this money, but now I expect this. It's like, no, you're donating money. Like,
right. It's it's somewhat difficult, but the solution to that really is if you benefited from that and were elected by that, by virtue of part of that contribution, then once you're, if you will, in the driver's seat, you just say, hey, like the example that Eric gave, when that lawsuit, if you will, when aspects of that lawsuit come before the county, and they do, because every time there's a board of supervisors meeting, they have a closed door session
Right.
before it, and they go over pertinent legal challenges. If you just say, I'm recusing myself because that entity, the Jeff Burham and his entity, they helped me out. Yeah, I appreciate the help in terms of the campaign, but I certainly recognize that if I weigh in on this, even if I'm not doing dirty work or whatever, it's going to look bad.
Yeah.
So I'm going to step out on this one.
All right.
Easy.
And that's the appearance of a conflict of interest.
Right. Yep. So that's principle one. Principle two is, we kind of hit on it already, is basically public debt is a threat. And it is just wrong to, like we said, people that haven't even been born already have a debt burden on their backs. So what we call for with principle two is pay as you go. In every program, it's pay as you go. That just like your home budget. If you're going to go buy groceries, you got to have the money to get it, right?
Right.
You can buy it on credit, but if you do that over time, you're doomed, right?
Yeah.
So you don't go buy groceries till you got the money. Now, somebody might ask, what about a long-term capital project? And our principle kind of addresses that, and it's basically any money you borrow for that is directly to construct it, and any money that produces goes back into paying off.
Yeah,
that.
which we do. An example of this too, a pay as you go, is Lake Arrowhead. We had I can't remember his name right now, but we interviewed
the water district.
The water district over at Lake Arrowhead, and they applied this pay as you go, and and it's working for them. Great.
Yeah.
So that's a great example. To listen to that show, go to youturnradio.com, and you can listen to how they're applying it and how it's working for them.
Their only concern was the pension issue.
Right. Right.
And not because maybe their pension, it was just they were concerned that the state would now come raid, if you will, their funds to pay pensions. But anyway, that's principle two. So pay as you go. Principle three is probably one of my favorites. And that is essentially that the pay that a government employee gets is somehow tied to the local economy. And so for an example, median household income is about $56,000 in the county.
Right.
So your pay as a government employee is somehow tied to that number. Like might be times 1, times 2, times 3, something like that. But any raises that you get are going to be a function of an economy getting better, right?
Right, of course.
If the economy gets better, median family income
gets better.
Is going to go up, and if your pay is tied to that, it goes up. So now you have a group of bureaucrats that their self-interest now, what makes them happy, like all of us, is, a little more money in our paycheck. Hey, I'm going to work to maybe take some of the regulations off so that, people can just go and do their work and not have to worry so much about paying, $800 for an inspection from the fire department or something like that.
Yeah, I mean,
$800 didn't get you very far. Like I said, they wanted $8,000 for each unmanned cell site.
But
That's my experience.
this was a really quick inspection. It took like an hour.
No, well, they for that $8,000 per cell site, they looked at 6 cell sites in 10 minutes and signed them off. So,
Yeah, okay.
$48,000 for 10 minutes.
48,000, you said?
$48,000 for 10 minutes work. That's
Wow.
what they wanted. That was an experience. The thing on the, tying the government salaries to the private sector salaries is it takes away some of the incentive to keep growing government. If the people in government are getting about twice what the people in the private sector are getting, which is what they are now, and they're getting pensions that are maybe 20 times what people are getting in the private sector, which is the case now, they're obviously trying to increase the incentive is to work in government. More people are trying to work in government. That puts pressure on growing government. And when they don't have enough work to do in government, governments have a way of finding work to do. And that was something that came up a couple shows ago where they're now decided they need to put a regime in place over in Joshua Tree to deal with everyone's, a trailer in their yard or something like that. They try to say that this is only driven by a need or driven by complaints, but it's not the fact. It's driven by a pressure to keep growing government because these are good jobs. They want to have jobs for their people they know and family in some cases, certainly. And the pressure. If you're going to do just as good in the private sector, then you don't have that pressure to get a government job, keep a government job, and whatnot. That is one of the factors in growing government.
Right.
And aside from getting a rising ship raised as all boats type of situation, getting everybody on the same page on what they want to make happen. Take a regulation in the building department. Take this idea that they currently have where they charge something like $220 an hour and make you put a deposit to go for a building permit. What that's done over time is significantly decrease the housing stock available in the county, which by the laws of economics increases the amount that everybody in the county is paying for housing, either if they want to buy a house or rent a house. So that takes away from the disposable income of the people in the county, but it does provide $220 an hour to people in the building department and allows them to grow their department. And they basically find different things to look at on those plans because they're getting $220 an hour to do them. And the time to get them a building permit, in a recent case I'm well aware of firsthand, is 2 to 3 years, where you take your own engineers, design this stuff, and they send them out to engineers in Orange County to do work on it. All the while they're charging $220 an hour to look at this stuff. So, that's the type of incentive that's in place when the people of the county have these great jobs and they're getting paid significantly more than people in the private sector. If they're getting the same amount and their compensation is tied to the private sector, they have an interest in decreasing the regulations, letting people get out there and get the housing industry going, which provides more housing stock, more houses for people, more choice, lower prices, which results in more income circulating through the economy, and that would raise the people in the county's average income, which in turn would raise their income that way. And the incentives would be in the right place.
That definitely makes sense.
Which is also going to contribute to, the decrease in homelessness if there's more places to live.
Right.
And they're less, they cost less.
And there's more jobs in that
Right.
scenario. Just think if they uncorked that 2-year backlog of people getting building permits and said, hey, we're going to look at it the way it used to be 20 years ago. And you can't tell me the houses are a whole lot better now than they were then. You walk in the building department, 2-3 days, and they get back to you. And and give you your building permit, and you're responsible to build a good house on it. So, and people look, and builders got a reputation, and people like to build from builders who had a good reputation, and that's the way the system works. Now we have some people at the county who think they're going to, take away any problem by looking at the plans 55 times, and it doesn't happen that way. And it does certainly slow things down, increase the cost, and decrease the options for the people that don't have a boatload of money for living in the county.
True. So let's go into principle number 4.
Number 4, in this one, I'm going to kind of wrote and then try to give a quick explanation. We support the rule of law, not the misuse of law. We oppose local government's use of the legal system to hinder legitimate grassroots efforts that are designed to restrain the expansion of government. So let me kind of explain that. The Red Baron Group, which, as we know, underwrites the show, has done work in the county to try to bring some of these changes.
Right.
Some initiatives that, hey, let's shrink government. We responded to the FP5 issue also. And what we've found is, again, that principle of self-interest that specifically county council, that, the job of county council, that department, is, if you will, to protect, in a legal sense, the county's interests. Mm-hmm. Well, effectively, think about that. If their job is to protect the county's interests, then if there's initiative or an effort that they see coming in the door that is going to restrain the size of government or rein it in, what are they going to do? If you're a lawyer sitting in county council's shop and your job is to take care of the county,
I'm going to take care of the county.
Right. Yeah.
And
if you're a good lawyer, you'll figure out really a way to what we used in the military call an effective kill, which is you don't necessarily have to kill the person. You can just like injure them, or you can destroy their infrastructure, something where they can't fight. Right.
Right. Of course.
And that's essentially the approach with county council. It's like, let's get this into the courts. And, immediately once it's in the courts, it's 5-6 years.
Let's replace the people's judgment with the judgment of the attorneys and the people that are working at the county and benefiting from this system and don't want the change. So they try to say that, well, this could potentially be unconstitutional or not consistent with our way of government. And, those type of things, the people, where you have to go out and get 27,000 signatures and then put it before the people to vote on, they can decide whether that is unconstitutional or restrains their government. And then after it's elected, if there really is a constitutional problem that gets through 27,000 people plus half of all the voters, then there already is a thing where it can be taken to court. But what the county's done is supplanted their judgment and started suing us in particular on these efforts to put initiatives in before we can even take them to the people. They won't give us a ballot. Some are entitled to go get signatures on it, and they provide no guidance on what they will approve or not. And so, we put in a number of initiatives in response to that to make the point that it's hugely inefficient to do it this way, but also to get an idea of what they'll approve and what they won't. And as it turns out, they won't approve anything. Or 11 out of 13 initiatives that were put in, they decided to sue us in response.
So way of stopping was to sue you guys in return.
It's anybody that's putting something in that they don't like now. They've got a method that they can stop it ahead of time before the people get a chance to even look at it.
So it's almost like let's not bring it out to the people so the people can vote on it. Kind of just let's not put it out in the air out there for people to see what's really going on type thing.
And if you think about it, even in the best case, that's very paternalistic for someone, a lawyer that works for the county to look at an initiative and say that, this is not constitutional and And what would happen if we let this through is once it's voted in and then it's taken to court and overthrown, the voters get really frustrated with the system. So I am going to act as a gatekeeper to make sure that doesn't happen, so that NADIA never sees that initiative, because she'll be so frustrated if she votes for it and then it gets blown away in court after. Does that make sense?
That definitely makes sense. That for sure makes sense. All right, let's go to our last principle before we run out of time here.
Okay.
So principle number 5.
We believe that governments should be small precisely because communities are made up of big-hearted, genuine people. And we believe that big-hearted communities that are energized by self-reliance and unshackled, and I am reading some of this, if they're unshackled by government regulation, they're going to go out with, that good American charitable heart, right, and they're going to solve their problems in their local community in a way that satisfies them. Yeah, and they're going to do it efficiently.
I think we definitely have had a lot of great examples of that when we've donated money to these different charities, and when they've called in and told us why they started, it's because there was a need for it. And even when it was almost like there's a need for it, people need it, and here I'm doing it. And their aftermath, if you think about everybody that has called in, they all talk about how good it feels to give back and help out people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I think that's almost like, you cannot pay to feel good about helping other people.
Yeah. It's interesting. That impetus is out there everywhere you go.
Yeah, for sure.
People want to help, and we just need to kind of release them to help. But if you kind of look at it and say, well, that's the government's doing that, I got to stay out of that. It quells that innovation and that impetus to go help.
Absolutely. So now,
yeah, not always. Remember the lady that was in, and we help her out quite a bit, even aside from what we did on the show that has helps the homeless people and the women that are abused and what, I forget the name of it.
Valley Oasis.
Yeah, Lancaster.
Valley Oasis, yeah.
Yeah.
And so it turns out we help them a whole lot, but then the government decides to put a tax on everybody and jump in and give them a whole bunch of money themselves for helping the homeless. And as soon as they cut the homeless down and get everybody in homes, then they cut their budget off. So, our innovation was we will now change from helping you out and helping the homeless to help you out get a bus so you can get more homeless in so you can get your budget up during the 2 weeks that you count them.
Okay, so real quick, we went over what the problems are, and we went over like how we're over budget, how San Bernardino, we owe a lot of money. We went over 5 principles that are a beginning to try to make a difference. So for the people that are listening to this and they're like, man, I want to be part of that. I want to be part of the principles. I want to be part of trying to make a change. Just like how we got in this mess, and it took a long time, it's going to take time. And let's be realistic here. Yeah. It's going to take time to see the changes and to make these changes. But for the people that are listening and heard these issues and then heard the principles that we've come up with to start change, and they want to get involved, how can they do that? How can they say, hey, you know what? I'm already doing some kind of change, and I want to be part of your guys' change. And this is what I also do.
They're going to have to come back next week and listen to next week's show.
Next Thursday at 3 o'clock here on YouTube Radio.
We're running out of time, but it's the only way that it's going to happen is for a bunch of people to get involved. So.
And that's really what we need. We need more citizens that care and that want to see a difference and a change. And not just for themselves, but for their kids and for their upcoming kids. Because we learned that even like the unborn right now will be in debt if we keep going the way that we are going right now.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, the history of a people in debt is a history of servitude.
Absolutely.
And I don't want to see my kids or grandkids in that situation.
I don't have kids, but I don't want to see my future kids and their kids. Anyways, that wraps it up for us here at youTurn Radio. Thank you for being with us today. Next Thursday, we'll if you want to be part of the show and also get in contact with us for the next show, if you heard this show and you want to make a change, go to info@youturnradio.com and you can email us there and get in contact with us. Other than that, next Thursday, 3 o'clock here on youTurn.
See ya.